What's going on, everybody? Marko here with FencingLaunch. And today we're here for another masterclass. We're going to be talking about the seven-figure sales system to grow and scale your fence company in 2024 and beyond. So for those who don't know, here at FencingLaunch, we specialize in helping fence and deck contractors grow and scale their businesses through paid advertising. So things like Facebook ads, Google ads, things like that. And let me just start out by telling you guys a little bit of a story here. When I first got in the marketing space, in the advertising space, in the sales industry, space here, it used to be a lot more difficult to get, or it used to be a lot more easier to get results on these platforms. And now that we move post-COVID and companies are growing and scaling, I'm starting to see a lot of trends. Okay, a lot of things. And in today's masterclass, I want to break down the seven-figure sales system that you guys need to follow if you aren't already to grow and scale your company and really squeeze more juice out of the advertising and marketing you're already doing. Because whether you're currently running Facebook ads, currently running Google ads, or just currently running a fence company and you're getting referrals, okay, you have to follow a sales process. And sales is one of those things that is super, super important. And, those are some of the things that we're going to talk about on today's masterclass. Okay. So at the end of this presentation, my goal for you is to have the sales process that seven-figure companies are using in today's market. Okay. Especially with election season, especially with money getting more tight, inflation, and all of these other things that aren't helping us as a business. Okay. We're going to show you the seven-figure sales system. Okay. What systems you need to have in place. So like, what do you say? What are the things you should be doing when you're at these sales appointments, and really how to close the deal? Because at the end of the day, we have to grow the company and you have to, make the marketing worth it. Okay. And the third thing here is I'm going to show you how to grow a successful fence company. And then the last thing I want you to come off of this call with is to make sure you have a marketing plan, okay, that can get implemented in your business. Because, by the end of the call today, my goal is for you to have a marketing plan, a sales system that you could follow that's predictable, that's going to help you get consistent results in your fence business. Okay. So who is Marko? Why listen? Obviously, we have a $10 million track record in terms of marketing. So we manage a lot of investment for the clients we work with in the home services industry. We've generated well over $100 million in actual revenue for the clients we've worked with, and we've won many marketing and advertising awards. And so our goal today for you, again, is to have a system that is predictable, that you can, grow your sales team. Okay. Now, sales doesn't need to be rocket science, right? I'm sure you've heard that before. It doesn't have to be rocket science. It's really a muscle that you train, and a muscle that gets better as you do more calls. Okay. And I think it would be awesome if all of us had stacked calendars, 5, 6 appointments every single day booked, which means you get solid 4 or 5 actual estimates that you're going to run and give a quote. And then you're going to come home with a job or two every single day, right? That would be awesome. And here at FencingLaunch, we have other trainings as well. So if you go to our YouTube channel or our website, fencinglaunch.com, you can see in our masterclass section here the different masterclasses that we've done. You can take a look at our blog even. We do a lot on how to sell more fence jobs from a marketing standpoint and all of that good stuff. But at the end of the day, fencing sales doesn't have to be rocket science like we're talking about. And I will tell you, the fence companies that sell millions of dollars in projects are the fence companies that just follow the same thing every single time. They follow the same process. The conversation is the same thing. We were interviewing Chuck Thoke on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and Chuck Thoke is a sales trainer at Top Rep, and he was telling me the biggest tip you could give to a home service company right now is just have a process, follow a process, and then if your process isn't working, then change it. Right? So don't stick with it if it's not working. And again, it doesn't have to be rocket science like we're talking about. It starts with understanding your market. So for example, if you're a fence contractor, you want to probably get a quote from your biggest competitor. Okay. Now, I'm not telling you that, but I kind of am telling you that. That's actually what we did when we first started too, is you want to get a quote from your biggest competitor. And the reason for that is so you can understand, okay, where are they at? What are they doing? What does their process look like? And how do we make our process better than that? Because if they're currently doing that in Metro Tampa, if they're currently doing that process, why couldn't it work for us? Now, obviously, the goal is not to copy. The goal is to get an understanding of what works really well. And the bigger companies usually do things really well. Okay. So that's something to look at for sure. Now, the other thing is you want to see, okay, what are they doing differently from a marketing standpoint, from an advertising standpoint? What does their website look like? Just do an analysis of the people around you to see, okay, how do we make improvements to what we have? How do we make improvements to our plan and what we're going to be doing and what's on our action game plan? Okay. And then the third thing is, how big is the market? Okay. I want you to understand that a little bit. How many homeowners are there? There's a lot more things that you'll look into, but a general thing that you could do is literally go to Google. And if you're in Tampa, you could do how many homeowners are in Tampa, Florida. Okay. And we can see here year over year, 3% growth. Okay. There's 80,000 owner occupied homes and there's 77,000 renter occupied homes in a total of 157,000 occupied housing units. Okay. So as you can see there, there's plenty of work to go around. There's plenty of work to go around if you're in Tampa. This becomes more of an issue when you're in a smaller market like Wheeling, West Virginia, or who knows where, just the middle of nowhere, that maybe there's 20,000 homeowners. And if that's the case, then you might need to do a little bit of research to figure out, is this market even capable for what my goals are? Okay. So that's something you want to do. Now, the riches are in the niches. Okay. You've probably heard that before as well. And I will tell you for sure, okay, that the riches are in the niches. And the reason for that is, let me just share my screen over here on this doc here. If you're a fence company with one crew in Tampa, Florida, we're going to go with that example again. It's better for you to focus on one or two services versus doing it all. Okay. You could do replacement, you could do repair, you could do new construction, you could do residential, you could do commercial, you could do vinyl, you could do wood, you could even do gates, you could do you could do industrial fencing. Okay, there's so many things you could do, and then all of the different systems, right? There's metal, there's going to be like I said, vinyl, wood, chain link, right? There's a lot of options. Okay, let's be honest. And so as a company, if you focused, okay, I do fence replacement, or I do fencing in Tampa, Florida, and we offer vinyl, vinyl and wood fencing. Okay. If you do vinyl and wood fencing and you go out in the public and you say, hey, we're a fencing contractor in Tampa, Florida, and we do vinyl fencing, people know exactly where you are, what you do, and how you do it. And when you do that, people automatically are going to associate your brand with vinyl fencing in Tampa. And so when they get a vinyl fence, they're going to think of you. Versus if you do everything, all of your marketing gets diluted for each service, because, what's popular is what's going to go, right? And definitely focus on that. Don't try to do everything at once when you're smaller. It's not going to work. When you're a little bit of a bigger company, you can start doing that. You can start offering sort of everything, have departments for repair, have departments for replacement, have departments for new construction, all of that. Okay. But at the current size, if you're smaller with one crew, just, the riches are in the niches. So stick with it. Okay. Now, a little bit more on identifying your market. Okay. And kind of what that means exactly. Okay. Because, every market's a little different. Okay. I want you to analyze the demographics, the psychographics, and the geographic of your area. So if you're in Tampa, Florida, how far are you traveling? Are you going to Sarasota? Are you going to St. Pete? Are you going to Clearwater? Like where on the map are you going is a big question you want to ask yourself, right? And the other thing is what type of customers are we looking for? Are we looking for homeowners that make over $100,000 a year? Are we looking for homeowners that are male, that are over 40 years old? Are those the type of people we're looking for? And if you look at all your previous customers, look at commonality. Look at it. How old is everybody in there? What is their gender? What city or what zip code are they located in? Because these type of things will help you analyze where you should focus, right? If all of your clients are from Clearwater, Florida, and they're all above the age of 30 years old, and maybe that's your target market. If you like working with those folks, let's scale that up, right? Let's see how big that market is in terms of Facebook ads, right? And there's a lot of things you could do to identify this, but those are just a couple things that I recommend, if you're a fence company looking into, okay? Now, here's a quick bonus tip for everybody watching here, okay? If you want to get more sales opportunities, if you want to have more swings at the bat, you need to have a really good script, because when you get leads, I guarantee you what the leads are going to tell you is, I just want a ballpark estimate. They're going to say, I want an estimate. I want a quote. That's all I want. And if you're hearing that from the leads you're getting, those aren't bad leads. Those are actually really good leads. Like, these are homeowners that want to know more about your product, your price, and they want to know if you can help them with their problem, right? And what you want to do is you want to follow a very specific script. And I could send this to you guys. It's not in this presentation here, but the reality is somebody's going to ask for a quote, and you're either going to say, well, yeah, our process is we're going to come out there and give you a quote. And they'll probably say, oh no, I don't want you to come out here. So a lot of people would think those type of leads are bad or bad intent, right? And they're really not, because when somebody asks you for a ballpark quote, literally tell them, hey, Bob, I totally understand. If I were you, I'd want a quote too, right? And in order to get that for you, I wanted to know, like, what type of project are you looking for? And they're going to tell you what they're looking for: a front fence, backyard fence, vinyl fence, you name it. Okay. And then you're going to tell them, okay, awesome. Well, you're looking for a new fence for your backyard around your pool. What type of fencing are you looking for? And they're going to tell you, okay, I'm looking for wood, or I'm looking for vinyl, or I'm looking for whatever it is, right? Chain link. And at that point is where you're going to say, okay, awesome. And Bob, typically our process kind of works like this, right? Or no, you could say something like, hey, Bob, like, have you heard about our install process? And he's going to say, oh, no, I haven't heard about it. Okay, cool. So awesome. Here's our process. It kind of works like this. And then you walk them through a 3-step, 5-step, whatever your install process looks like. And then after you kind of educate them on that install process, then you'll say, hey, typically what we do, Bob, is we'll come out to your project later this week, and I'm actually in your area on Friday. So if you're available on Friday afternoon or so, something like that, I could swing by your location. We can take a look. We can measure the project, and we can really put our ideas into writing here and see if this is something that we could help you out with. Does that sound good for you? And then they're going to say, okay, awesome. Yeah, no, come out here Friday, 2 p.m. or whatever, right? And the whole idea is we want to break through people just wanting a ballpark estimate. We want to break through that, and we want to get them more focused on the product, more focused on what we're going to do to solve their problems. Okay. Because that's why we're out here in general. Okay. So that's super, super important. For those watching, if you want this script, just send me an email, marco@fencinglaunch.com, and I can send you that as well. Okay. Now let's get right into the actual install process here. So if, sales system here. So this is a 6-step sales system, 6 steps. And if you want access to this, all you got to do is go to fencinglaunch.com/July26, and you can get access to this install or the sales system here. And really just to kind of give you an overview here, this is what Chuck Thoke was talking about, is you have different steps of the sale. Okay. You're going to have the building rapport, talking to the customer, and then you're going to be building value. And then you're going to have ultimately the pitch. Like, what is the pitch, right? And we've broken this down into 6 simple steps. Okay. And these steps you can follow consistently and predictably. And step 1 is building rapport. Okay. Building rapport is super, super important. I can't stress it enough. Okay. This is the conversation stage. This is when you show up to the home and you knock on the door and you say, hello, my name is Marko with Fencing Launch. How are you doing today? Right? You shake their hand, and that's building rapport. You're talking to them, you're communicating with them, and you might even give a compliment. You might say, hey, look, I love that Ford Raptor you have out front. When did you get that? Or, stuff like that is going to build rapport. And here are some best practices when it comes to that. Okay. You're going to have open-ended questions. Encourage dialogue by asking questions that require more than a yes or no answer. Okay. So if you see a Harley in the driveway, say, how did you get into Harley Davidsons? Don't say, oh, I see you have a Harley. Do you like it? That's a yes or no question. Rephrase it and say, how did you get into Harley Davidsons? Now he's going to start talking about himself. And that's where you want the client to be, is you want them to start talking about themselves, and so they can like and trust us through this process. Okay. Nobody buys from anybody unless they like and trust you. And so those are the things we want to do. Number 2 is positive language. Use optimistic and affirmative words to create a friendly and encouraging atmosphere. Okay. It sounds dumb, but it's super easy here. You want to be positive. You want to have a smile on your face, which I'm not good at, but you want to do those type of things. And again, pair that with those open-ended questions. Okay. So it brings conversation and it's not super boring. Okay. Now, the third thing is be clear and use very concise sentences. Okay. And you want to avoid misunderstanding. Okay. The reason why you and I aren't going to work today is, or, this partnership is not going to work, is because of perceived indifference. We're not on the same page about all of these items. So it's super important communication to me. And if you just set that up front, the expectation that you're going to be very clear and that there's going to be no miscommunication, misunderstanding here, the client's really going to like that. And they're really going to like your company for doing that as well. Okay. And something that I noticed too is don't go overboard. Don't go overboard. Just something to know. Don't start asking questions about everything they have in their driveway or everything that's in their cupboard or, everything that's in their kitchen. Just pick enough and ask them the right questions, open-ended questions, so that brings the conversation to be 5 to 10 minutes long. So that way it's not taking up 30 minutes, but it's either not 1 minute, because if it's 1 minute, it's too short. If it's 5 minutes, it's perfect. If you're building rapport for the first 5 minutes, the client is going to start to trust you around their kids. The client's going to start to trust you in your home, and the client's going to trust you to be the proven vendor for their service that they're needing. Okay. So that's super, super important. That's number 1, is building rapport. Okay. Number 2 is project walkthrough. Okay. Sounds pretty self-explanatory, but not a lot of people do this. A lot of people just go out to the job and they do the little project walkthrough themselves as a salesperson. And it's just not the right way to go about it. Okay. If you're trying to sell a lot of fences and you're trying to grow this company, you got to map this out. Okay. How are you going to get the client to walk through the project with you? So that way you can continue to build rapport, you can continue to talk to them, but now you're walking the project. So if they're trying to do a backyard fence, you're going to go to the backyard and you're going to walk and say, okay, cool. You're looking to do a fence here. You're going to do all of this. And you're going to basically walk where the project is going to be done. That way, this client, this particular prospect is going to see, okay, well, this guy really knows his stuff. Like, he's kind of explaining the process a little bit as we're walking, and you're going to continue to build rapport with them as well. Okay. Now, the third thing, so that's number 2, is project walkthrough. You want to walk it with the project. Okay. Number 3 is where we get into more of the technical stuff. Okay. Now, it doesn't need to be complicated, but in this step, it's the needs assessment. And in the needs assessment, really what you're doing is you're identifying what are the needs of this project. Why do they need this done? Why do they need a new roof? Why do they need a new fence? Why do they need coating on their concrete? What is it about this project that is a need? Because we want to, even if it's a want, we want to figure out what are they wanting and how do we make it into a need? Okay. So for example, let's say the fence in the backyard is not completely important. Okay, let's say it's not required by HOA. Let's say it's just something they want, right? It's a farm fence or whatever it is. How do we position it to where the customer needs this? Okay, and they need it. And here's some of the best practices that you can look at is you want to gather information for this stage. You want to ask questions like, hey, Bob, I just had a quick question for you. What about this project? Like, why did you call us out here in the first place? Why are you looking to get this done? And they're going to start to explain to you why it is. And he's going to start to give you all the ammo you're going to need. So write this down on the needs assessment. You're going to have a piece of paper. On the piece of paper, just start writing down. Okay, Bob said he needs this fence to keep his kids out of the pool, or he needs this fence to keep the dogs in the backyard, or he needs this fence because he's sharing it with the neighbor and the neighbor wants to look at a good fence, or he needs this fence because whatever the reason is. Okay, and there's a million of these, so we could sit here and guess, but whatever the reason is, write this down because you're going to use this later in the actual pitch. Okay, you're going to bring up, hey, you told me, Bob, that it's important to you because you want to keep your dogs in the backyard, right? So you're going to start to use this as ammo when you go close the deal. And this isn't unethical. This is ethical because the customer needs this. This is why they're literally telling you why they need it. Okay. And this is going to be super important, such as things like linear feet of fence, where, map it out. Those are type of things you want to put in the needs assessment as well. You're going to start to map out where the fence is going to be, how big the fence is going to be, and what type of fencing they're wanting, and all of that. Okay. And you're still identifying where the customer's pain points are so you can write those down. Okay. So that's number 3, needs assessment. So number 1 is build rapport. Number 2 is project walkthrough. And number 3 is needs assessment. Why do they need this project done? Okay. Credibility goes a long way. As you can see here, 62% of buyers ready to connect with salesperson, 76% of buyers ready to engage with potential providers, and 92% of buyers willing to engage with an industry thought leader. So if you're doing a needs assessment, what it's doing is it's showing to the customer that you care. It's showing to the customer that this job is important to not only you, but us as well. I want to make sure we do this right, so I'm going to take notes on it. Okay. And that makes you a thought leader. Okay. So 92% of buyers are willing to engage with an industry expert versus a non-industry expert. Okay. So super important to note there that you want to build value. You want to figure out what they are looking for. Okay. Number 4 is my favorite part, which is present the product. And in number 4, this is all about really breaking down to the client your install process, showing them examples of the fencing that they're looking for. If they're looking for vinyl or wood, you want to show them examples of what that fence is going to look like. You want to show them case studies. You want to do all of that. Okay. And we would be here all day if I had to break down an exact way of doing that. But you want to have an iPad. You want to have some sort of presentation, kind of like these slides here. You want to be visual. You want to be visual. You got to show them how to do it. Another thing you could do is there's a software, I think it's called Reality Fence. Okay. And I'm going to share my screen over here. And Reality Fence, basically, you can see here, you take a video of the backyard and it's going to place the fence there. And this is where you present the product. You're going to say, hey, Mr. Customer, it looks like you're looking for this color of a fence, right? This exact fence here would look like this in your backyard. Okay. That's what we're talking about. This is what really good presenting of the product looks like. Okay. And some of the best practices when it comes to presenting the product is, again, having an iPad, taking a video of their backyard and, using realityfence.com to show them, okay, here's what your fence is going to look like. And having slides to show them like 3 things. Number 1, your install process, what it looks like to install that type of fencing. Number 2, you want to show them testimonials and case studies of clients that you currently work with that have gotten a beautiful fence in their backyard. You want to show them a similar type of backyard that's going to be intriguing. They're going to be like, oh, I want that kind of fence in my backyard. Okay. Those are the type of things you're looking to show them in this stage. Okay. And the last thing is, I want you to build a lot of value. Okay. throughout the presentation, if the customer's name is Bob, you're going to say, hey, Bob, so far hearing from me, do you feel like this, type of project is going to be a good fit for you? Or do you feel like I'm gibbering? And then shut up and listen to what the customer has to say. If they say, oh, no, for sure, what you're showing me is great, this is exactly what I'm looking for, then you move forward. If they say, no, this doesn't make any sense, I guess I'm not understanding the type of fencing you're doing here, then you're gibbering. So stop there, reanalyze, and you got to go back to the needs. Where is their pain? What are they looking for? How do we solve that solution, or how do we solve that problem? Okay. And so again, it comes down to that's like a mid question. You're not asking for the sale, but you're simply asking them like, hey, where are you at in the sales process? Like, are you ready to buy yet, or are you still thinking? And so again, if you didn't hear that right, you're going to say, hey, Bob, just so far, from what I've shown you here with our install process and kind of what we have to offer, do you feel like this is something you could get value from, or do you feel like I'm just kind of gibbering here? Okay. And they'll tell you whether you're gibbering or whether you're doing it right. Okay. So that is presenting the product. Okay. And there's a lot of things that we could talk about that go into that. But ultimately, I want you to guys have an iPad. I want you to have a presentation showing the install process and some case studies. It could be as simple as literally, like, let's say your company was Fence Me In. This is your company name, right? You could literally have a presentation of a bunch of screenshots like this, right? Screenshots of projects that their job is going to look like, right? And you want to have a presentation for every different type of fence. So if you're pitching vinyl, have a presentation for that. If you have wood, have a presentation for that. And so you want to include different presentations for different products that you offer. That way it's relevant to the conversation. Okay. So that's number 4. Number 1, just to kind of reiterate here, is building rapport. Number 2 is doing a project walkthrough. Number 3 is doing the needs assessment. And number 4 is presenting the product. Okay. Now, number 5 is overcoming objections. And this is probably the biggest part where people screw up, is overcoming objections. And again, it doesn't have to be super hard, because before you even tell them the price, you're going to have that pulse question. You're going to say, hey, Bob, so far hearing from you, do you feel like this is something you could get value from? And if they say no, then you have more work to do. If they say yes, then you can continue on to the price. Okay. Now, if they say no, there's objections. They haven't even shown them the price, but there's objections. And you're never going to get the deal if they have objections and you haven't even showed them the price. That's a 0% chance you won't get the deal, because there still is objections. There's still questions they have for you. And so at this stage where they say, oh, no, I have a couple questions. So, how long does this install process take? And you're going to start to explain, okay, well, our install process takes 2 to 5 days, depending on the rain or whatever, right? And you're going to explain your process to them further. And the point in this is you want to continue to mold them into a good customer. Okay. So number 1 is asking the right questions to mitigate those objections. Number 2 is handle them with having active listening skills. So everybody thinks they're active listeners, but what it really means to be actively listening is not talking and let the customer speak their mind. So you're going to ask them, well, how do you feel about all of this so far? And they're going to start to explain positive or negative. Whatever's negative or whatever they're unsure of, say, hey, Bob, help me understand what you mean by, your timeline on when you're trying to get this project done. Okay. And so you want to ask those questions. You want to be actively listening. And what it means to actively listen is you ask relevant questions back so you fully understand what they're talking about. Okay. And then number 3 here is like, let's say we move forward with this right now. Let's say we move forward with this. What are you most afraid of happening? Okay. That's a really good question to ask them. And they're going to explain to you, well, my roofing contractor screwed me. They just left the job half done, or, they didn't do the tile right, or whatever. Right. And so, like, I'm scared that you guys aren't going to do it properly. Right. Or you can start to say, well, I'm afraid, I usually, when I work with contractors, their communication isn't very good. I can't get anybody on the phone. And they're going to start to explain to you whatever they're most afraid of happening. And then you're going to say, like, let's say, for example, you know, you say, what are you most afraid of happening? And they're going to say, well, I hired a, plumbing company and they came here one day, but they never finished the job properly. And you're going to say, hey, Bob, I totally understand. This is super important to you. You want to make sure this job is done right once and for all. And you're not going to have to worry about it. And I'll tell you right now, you have my commitment. You have this agreement here. We're going to stand behind our work. We're licensed, bonded, and insured. You can see all of our online testimonials here. We guarantee you a fence job done right. Okay. And, through that, you're going to have nothing to worry about. Does that make sense? And so you want to make them feel more comfortable with you. Okay. And again, that's a golden question. So write that down or take a picture of it. Let's say we move forward with this right now, Bob. What are you most afraid of happening? And they'll explain to you where they're insecure about it or where they're unsure about it or kind of what they're afraid of. Like, what are they scared of happening? Okay, what's their fear of happening here? And you just want to go ahead and solve that right then and there. That way you can move on to more productive conversation, collecting credit cards and signing the docs, right? And those are just kind of some of the things you could do there. Okay, so that's number 5 is handle the objections. Number 6 is you want to close the deal. So with closing the deal comes a little bit with assuming the sale. Okay, because you don't want to say, hey, Mr. Customer, are you ready to move forward? That's intimidating. That's really intimidating. And so what you want to do, instead of asking them, hey, do you want to move forward? You want to say things like, hey, Bob, hey, Bob, your investment for this fence is going to be $7,200. Okay. Typically, what we do is, since you're trying to get this done in the next 2 weeks, let's get this thing scheduled for like a week out from now. And typically, our process kind of works like this. We'll get this completed, and then from there, we'll schedule that install date. How does this all sound to you? And you're going to say, how does this all sound to you? And they're going to say, oh, no, this sounds good. Okay, awesome. Well, let me take a look here. You're going to pull out your iPad. You're going to pull out your agreement, or you're going to have a paper agreement, and you're going to show them. You're going to walk them through the agreement. You're going to say, okay, cool. So here's everything here. You're looking for this type of fence. Here's how much fencing is going to be required. Here's when you're trying to get it installed. We can either take credit or debit. Or for example, you could even say, like, write down your name here, like they'll write down their name, Marko Sipila, and then you'll say, put down your email right here. Okay, Marko@FencingLaunch.com. And then on the next page, you're going to say, okay, cool. So here's like the fence size. Here's the fence you're looking for. And then all you got to do is put a signature down there at the bottom, and we'll get everything going. And then you want to assume the sale. You don't want to make it very blunt. You don't want to be like, does this make sense? Any questions? Okay. Now you're going to sign here and get started. No, you don't want to do that. You want to assume the sale. You want to make it a very natural feel. You want to make it feel like the client's not actually getting sold to, and the client's actually getting helped with. Okay. So that's super important as well. Is you want to make the client feel like they're getting helped, not that they're having to gruel going through this sales process. Okay. And if we were to talk about close rates, this is a big deal. Close rates. Nobody's talking about it in this industry. And I wanted to show you here because you're going to have a different close rate for different forms of marketing. Okay. So you're going to have different type of leads. If you're a fence company, you might be getting referrals. You might be getting, radio leads. You might be getting commercial leads. You might be getting Google ad leads, website leads, Facebook leads, home show leads. People just might search you on Google and you find you on your local business profile, right? There's many, 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 many different ways you can get leads. There's Yelp, Angie. This is like Home Advisor type stuff. Okay. There's hundreds of ways you could get leads. Okay. And the reality is everybody's at a different level. Okay. And what I mean by that is 98% of people are not ready to buy. Okay. 2% of people are ready to explore. Okay. And under 1% are ready to buy. Okay. And so what that means is that you want to meet the customer where they're at. Okay. And if we were to break this down under the main ways of getting leads or work in general, okay, the main way of getting work is going to be referrals, and then probably Facebook ads, and then Google ads. And then you have maybe your website. Okay. Your referrals, this is a high chance you'll close the deal because it's somebody who likes and trusts you that sent a referral. Therefore, they trust you. So you have a high chance of closing this. You're going to have a higher close rate on those leads. Okay. Facebook ads, you're going to get a lot. You're going to get a lot of high quantity of leads. The quality is going to be mid. Okay. Facebook is Facebook. If you want to make it work for your company, you're going to have to follow the process. Now, I would say, 1 in 10 leads will close into a customer. Okay. Now, referrals, you're going to have like 8 in 10 leads. Okay. And then on Google ads, you're going to have probably about 3 in 10 leads will close. Okay. And from your website, it just depends on where the traffic is coming from. So maybe 5 in 10 leads. Okay. Now, the reason why I map it out like this is because Facebook ads, if you get 10 leads, not everybody answers the phone. And when you do get them on the phone, you're going to schedule a few estimates. And from those estimates, one is going to close. That's pretty reasonable. And these are super cheap too. Your cost per lead is super cheap, which means you're not paying that much to acquire the customer through Facebook ads. That's why Facebook ads work really, really well. Okay. And then Google ads are going to cost a little bit more to get leads, but your close rate is way higher. You're going to be closing a higher percentage of them because why? Well, there's higher intent leads here. Okay. Facebook has lower intent leads here. It doesn't mean Facebook is bad. It just means Facebook is a little bit different and it's going to take more leads to close jobs. Okay. And then your referrals, these are the highest intent leads you could ever get. And I think all of us would agree. If you could just get unlimited referral leads, we would all be happy, right? You'd be super happy if we just got referral leads. And that's just not possible. I mean, if you want to scale your business beyond 1, 2, 3, 4 crews, you're going to have to start investing in paid advertising. Okay. That's just a given. Okay. Now, website leads are going to be super important. Okay. But I show you that because I just want you to understand that advertising on different platforms and getting leads from different platforms are going to yield a different conversation in the sales process. A lead from Facebook, you're going to talk about different stuff than a lead from a referral. And that's just normal business. But you still want to follow the process. You still want to follow the steps 1 through 6. And again, as we break down those steps, okay, what they are is right here. So we got step 1, building rapport. Step 2, project walkthrough. Step 3, you're going to do that needs assessment. Step 4, you're going to present the product. You're going to show them the product. You're going to answer any questions they have on the product. And then number 5 is you're going to handle the objections. You're going to say, hey, Bob, so far hearing from me, do you feel like this is something you could get value from? If they say yes or no, based on the answers, you're going to go through and handle those objections. You're going to build value. And then number 6 is you're going to close the deal. That's where you're going to ask them for the deal. And you're going to assume the sale. You're not going to make it seem like a salesy pitch. You're not going to say any of that scummy stuff that people say online. But ultimately, you want to be ethical. You want to sell it. And you want to build a lot of value. And, just remember, just one quick tip here. People buy from people they like and trust. And so if you're trying to grow a fence company, you have to build relationships with homeowners. That's just name of the game. That's normal for this type of business. Okay. And, at the end of the day, like I said, lastly there, the type of leads are going to differ based on your close rates. Okay. So keep that in mind as well. So hopefully that makes sense. If you guys have any questions, put them in the comments section below, or you can email me and I will get back to you guys as soon as possible. My goal for you is to get as much value as possible out of these masterclass series. We're making a lot of videos on, Facebook, Google, sales processes like this one here. We're going to be talking a lot about referral marketing and some of the other stuff here in the future. So hopefully you guys are getting a lot of value from it. definitely go over to our website. If you don't know what we do, we are the #1 marketing agency for the fence and deck industry. So definitely take a look at our website here. It's fencinglaunch.com. If you're looking to take your fencing company to the next level, you can see kind of the different services that we have here to offer. A lot of the different companies that we work with are on our website as well. So if you're looking to learn more, go here. Definitely take a look at our podcast. We do a lot more content on our podcast. You just click here on the podcast section on our website and you can get access to that as well. But at the end of the day, folks, hopefully you guys got a lot of value from this. I appreciate your time and energy. And the last thing I want you guys to do, if you haven't joined it already, is by joining the Fence and Deck Owners Hangout, which is a Facebook group that we created that's free, absolutely free. You can, join the community of other fence and deck contractors across the country, and we're all masterminding together. I think there's almost 1,000 people in the group now, so it's growing, and a lot of people are getting a lot of value from the group. And without further ado, I appreciate your guys' time, and I'll see you guys